CBC Newsbreak. Another local organization is joining with regional governments in expressing concern about a European Union decision to blacklist several CARICOM nations, including Barbados, by labeling them as tax havens. It has come from the Barbados Employers Confederation, or the BEC. President of the Confederation, Ian Gooding-Edgell, made the comments at a regional forum entitled Facilitating Participation of CARIFORM Civil Society in Regional Development and Integration Processes. The forum includes 34 representatives from 19 employers organizations in the English and Dutch-speaking Caribbean. Mr. Gooding-Edgell wants those concerned to unite in a show of support for the economic well-being of the region.
Such a move in solidarity with regional governments would positively refashion any perception of the Caribbean Employers Confederation as a grouping only concerned with narrow institutional interests and demonstrate its willingness to become more broad-based and activist when its interests coincide with those of other partners.
Meanwhile, the EU's ambassador to Barbados, Michael Barford, has denied that there is a crackdown by the EU on countries which fail to enforce tax avoidance laws. Instead, Mr. Barford says the EU's Commission asked member states to come up with countries they perceived to be tax havens, and only countries that appeared more than 10 times were placed on the list. As a result, he is encouraging affected Caribbean nations to seek individual EU nations for some answers.
It is clearly of interest to individual Caribbean countries listed, as Minister Innes has already suggested, that these listed countries, they contact individual EU member states that have named a given country as uncooperative in order to see why this EU member state made this rating and what were the criteria.
The Barbados Agricultural Society remains concerned that some hoteliers are still importing produce and commodities that can be obtained from local farmers. And the BAS Chief Executive Officer James Paul wants to know why, charging that some of the same hoteliers are demanding duty-free concessions from the government. He says he will raise the matter with the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association this week.
There is an ideal opportunity for our local tourism industry to work closely with our productive sectors, more especially the agricultural sector, to see how it can more adequately service them. And that is what we need to take advantage of, that opportunity, to see the extent to which our local productive sectors can supply them with the type of produce that they require in terms of quality, and not only that, in terms of price. And I think that that is what we need to labor on. But it seems as if there is still a preoccupation on the part of the BHTA to import, irrespective of the fact that some of the items that they're looking at can be adequately produced by our local productive sectors.
The recent upsurge in violent activity is not only happening in Barbados, it's also occurring worldwide. This observation from psychiatrist Dr. Serling Bryce during her presentation at a Seroptimus International meeting last evening. She says there is no simple solution to violence, as both adults and children are being affected. She adds that parents should be careful of the television shows which their children watch.
You know, it's extremely difficult to find anything for a child to watch now that doesn't contain violence. You go on Cartoon Network, for example, which is supposed to be a children's channel. Do you all see what happens? There's violence. So we are giving to our children, by our own behaviors and by what we are exposing them to without explanation, a role model for violence.
And meantime, the president of the National Organization of Women, Evelyn Broom Christie, also wants couples to be aware of their behavior, as it also affects children.
I really would like to see the day arise, and I hope that the day is now, where we start to work together, women and men, for the betterment of our nation and our children. This fight cannot be won by any one party alone, and we fool ourselves if we think that we can do it in our own area. And if we look our nation over, we're going to see that in the end, the ones who are suffering the most are our children.
Plans have been finalized for a $18.4 million facelift of the Garfield Sobers Gymnasium, but it will mean that the facility will be closed to all sporting and other activity for about 14 months. The news of this has come from the Minister of Culture, Sports and Youth, Stephen Lashley, during today's sitting of the House. He revealed that it's a done deal with a contract being awarded to a Chinese company and facilitated by the government of China. The major renovation work will start in April next year.
The gymnasium will have to be closed for the duration of the project, some 14 months. The gymnasium will have to be closed and not available for any activities to allow for those work to be done. The magnitude of the work, Mr. Speaker, is such that you cannot have part of the gymnasium being used and part being closed. It has to be based on the advice given to us by the technical and the engineers who will be working on the project, that it will require a total close-off of the facility over the period of time.
Well, Minister Lashley explains that improving the island's main sporting facilities must be seen as a main part of the island's sporting tourism thrust and government's economic growth and development strategy.
To bring international competition to Barbados, that there will be need to enhance those facilities. And along with that, the significant gains to Barbados. We know that in the area of sports and the capability is there to place Barbados at the center of attracting sports tourism. And therefore it is very important, because without adequate facilities, Mr. Speaker, we cannot obtain the gains that we say that we want to obtain, particularly in relation to advancing the cause where sports is being placed at the center of economic activity and as a key area of the growth strategy of the government.
Health officials from across the Caribbean are meeting in the island over the next 2 days. The stakeholder meeting will be for the Caribbean Laboratory Quality Management System's stepwise improvement process toward accreditation. Chief Executive Officer of the CARICOM Regional Organization for Standards and Quality, Derek Omar, spoke at the event. Mr. Omar believes that though attaining accreditation is not simple, it has several benefits.
By being accredited, medical laboratories confirm that there's consistency in the quality of care. The laboratory has up-to-date technologies, and its procedures and techniques reflect current best practice. And medical technicians and other staff are competent to undertake the task that they perform.
A 62-year-old man was injured and taken to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital yesterday afternoon. His truck ran off the road and struck a utility pole in Arch Hall, St. Thomas. Fire officials had to use the jaws of life to free the driver, David Prescott, of lot number 45, 6 Men's in St. Peter. He sustained injuries to his right leg. Regional and international news after the break. Stay with us.